Okay, our learning goal is I can calculate the cost of electricity given the power output of an appliance. So if you look at any appliance, it's going to be hidden a little bit, but it'll tell you some information. So this is the back of, for example, a food steamer. Okay, so it tells you the first thing it can tell you is 120 volts. So in the United States and in Colombia, when you plug in an appliance, your wall, rather than using a battery that's 3 volts that we've been using in class, your wall has 120 volts. Okay, in the US or Colombia, it'll either be 110 or 120 volts. So that's our battery, that's the wall that we plug it into. We're going to ignore this for now, we'll talk about that later. The last thing is this, 900 watts. So what does that mean? Well, maybe you remember power is the amount of energy being converted per second. So in this case, you convert, I guess it would be electric potential energy to heat. For a light bulb, it would be light and heat, and so on and so forth. So this is the number of joules per second being converted. Another way for saying that is the unit is watts. Watts. All right. So let's look at this appliance. Let's pretend like our sandwich press, it has 900 watts. That's how many joules are being converted from electric potential energy to heat. Okay, we're gonna make up a time here. I wrote some times for you. Let's pretend like you used a sandwich press for your family used a sandwich press for half an hour every single day. So we need to figure out how much energy you consumed doing that. Okay, well, let's think about this for a second. 900 watts. That's the same as saying, well, that appliance uses 900 joules per second. So if I wanted to figure out how much energy was consumed in 10 seconds, I would have to multiply this by 10 seconds. Notice my seconds canceled, and I get left with, well, in 10 seconds, I use 900 joules if the appliance is 900 watts. Or sorry, 9,000 joules. Okay. Now, rather than measuring in joules, if you look at your electricity bill at home, it's actually measured in what's called kilowatt hours. Okay, what does that mean? Well, let's first talk about this first part. What is kilowatts? If you think about meters, if I have 2,000 meters and I want to convert that to kilometers, kilo means 1,000. So 2,000 meters is just 2 kilometers. I divide my meters by 1,000. So if I have 900 watts and I want to convert to kilowatts, well, I do the same thing. I have to divide, that kilo tells me I have to divide by 1,000, so it's 0.9 watts. Okay, so we've got the kilo part figured out. Now how about the hours? Well, just like we were looking at how to calculate the energy if I turned on this appliance for 10 seconds, this is for turning the appliance on for X number of hours. So what does that mean? Okay, if I want to know how much energy is used, and I have a power, if I multiply power times some sort of time, this gives me an energy. Look at this right here. Power, if I multiply a power times a time, I get an energy. It's often written in a formula. Power times time gives me energy. If you look at the units, you shouldn't even need to use the formula. Right? Joules per second times seconds, and that gives me megajoules. Joules per second times seconds, my seconds cancel, and that gives me joules. So rather than multiplying by seconds, I can multiply by hours. So 900 let me put it in terms of kilowatts. 0.9 kilowatts times, if we use this appliance for 0.5 hours, if I multiply power by time, that's the amount of energy that I use. So this is the same as saying 0.45 kilowatt hours. So this is measuring energy, the electricity consumed, 0.45 kilowatt hours. Now, there's a price, right? For every kilowatt hour that you use at home, the electricity company charges you a certain amount. So I made up a number for you. I said for every kilowatt hour that you use, they're going to charge you 10 cents. Now we want to figure out how much is the weekly cost and the annual cost if I were to use this appliance every day for 0.5 hours. So this is 10, if you look at the units here, we have 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So I have dollars per kilowatt hour. So if I want to find out how much it costs, all I have to do is multiply this ratio, or 10 cents per kilowatt hour, times the number of kilowatt hours that I use it for the week, for example. And that tells me, look at my units, if I cancel, that tells me how much money it's going to cost me. So for that one day, if I were to use this, I would multiply 0.1 times 0.45, 0.1 times 0.45, and that would tell me how much money I would use, or how much money it would cost just to use it for that one day. So let's figure out how much it cost me for that one day. I've got 0.10 dollars per kilowatt hour times that one day. It's going to cost me I'm going to use this much energy, and that gives me, notice kilowatt hours cancel, and I'm left with 0.0. So this is what, 4.5 cents. That's not very much. 4.5 cents. All right. Now, if I want to know how much that costs me for a week, what am I going to do with that number? Well, I need to multiply. There's 7 days in a week, so I got to multiply that number by 7. Or the annual cost. How many days are there in a year? And then I can type those numbers into my calculator and find out how much it's going to cost me for the week and how much it's going to cost me for the year to use this appliance. So this is only going to cost me about 32 cents for the week, and for the year it's only going to cost about $16.43. So not too much money. So that's pretty good. So this time, hopefully you can calculate the cost given the power output of an appliance. The plan for this is, what we're going to use this for is, if we can figure out how much power is provided by a solar panel, then we can figure out, okay, how much electricity is going to be given to us by the solar panel. And if we know how much electricity and we know the cost of electricity, we can figure out how much is the solar panel going to save us in electricity for a year. We've got to compare that number with, well, how much a solar panel costs to begin with. And maybe that there's maintenance fees and installation fees, and is it worth it to install solar panels on your roof? So it's going to help us figure out that problem.